Girl, look how orange you fucking look. I'm not joking, bitch.
I'm sorry, I didn't know how to follow that up. Welcome to Crypts and Corks, episode 11, Spooky Friends. I'm your host, DJ, here with my co-host,
Paul, as usual.
Paul. You really astounded me with that opener.
You know, I do my best. It's a talent, really. It takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, a lot of respect for my country.
I mean, I was the theater major. I think you should have been a theater major too, with those acting chops right there.
I mean, maybe I... See, the thing is, I can't sing. If I could sing, maybe, but...
Not all theater is musical theater, Paul.
I know, but I don't think... look at me. Like, if I'm gonna do theater, it's gonna be musical theater. Let's be real here for a second.
Well, you could do Shakespeare, but you would have to, just accept that you would never get to play Romeo and Romeo and Juliet. You would just be Romeo's sad, gay, single best friend.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that what I am in real life, though?
No, but because you go on far more dates than I do. Although, I went on a date this week.
You went on a date?
I went on a date this morning. We're fresh out.
Oh, how did it go? Do tell.
It went really well. Him and I went to the same college. Mm-hmm. So at different times, so it was really interesting. We just missed each other. Okay. So it's really fun getting to compare notes on what's the same, what's different.
Was there a connection? Will there be a second date?
Yeah,
Maybe a third.
So I have this really bad habit of leaving thinking oh, what a wonderful date. I'm going to text them and be let's do this again. Mm-hmm. And they say no. Oh. And so at the end of the day, I was I had a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again. And he was yeah, absolutely. And he was text me when you get home. I was I will. You do the same. And I got home and I texted him and I was home. I had a really great time. I love talking with you. And I look forward to doing it again, making it absolutely without a doubt. I want a second date.
Right.
And I was okay, let's see if he actually texts back or if it's something non-committal. And he actually texted back yeah, I really look forward to the next date.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I know. So things are happening.
Well, I hope the next date goes as well as the first date.
Me too. And if you're listening to this because I did tell him about the podcast, I was not lying when I said it was a great date. I really thought it was a great date.
Awesome. Party.
How was your week, Paul?
My week was long and cold. Working a lot of overtime at work. And so I take the train into work, right?
Yes.
And so since it's cold, I spend a lot of time during the week waiting for the train in the cold.
Ew.
Honestly, I'm so fragile when it comes to cold. I'm that person that wears 7 layers, 3 jackets, 2 sweaters, scarves, mittens, the whole shebang. So this winter is about to be a long one for me, and it's just getting started. It's only the beginning of December.
Yeah,
bro.
I can't take how it gets cold at 4:30 in the afternoon because we work and we work later. Mm-hmm. And I don't take my break until about 4 o'clock.
Right.
And it's I go back to my desk and it's already getting dusk and my body just thinks, okay, we should be almost done by now. And we're not.
Right. This getting dark early thing, it's sad. That seasonal depression, seasonal affective disorder, I think it's called.
Yes.
It's real. People do be getting sad, because there's no sun. And I feel it too. Like you said, we work later, so it gets dark earlier. So it makes it that much harder to work the late shift because it's dark at freaking 4 o'clock. And then it's cold and it's just a mess. So this is my least favorite time of year. My favorite season is spring, and I am very much looking forward to it.
I hate. I mean, I like snow. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of snow.
Yeah,
Let me put it that way.
Very pretty.
But I hate slush. I hate ice. And I hate gray. That's the thing that gets me. When everything's gray and just bare, I cannot do it. It just kills me.
Right. I am the exact same page. The snow is pretty when it first lays, and then it gets all gross and slushy and like gets uglier as it melts, and it's just a mess. Winter can be messy yet beautiful at the same time.
Oh, for sure.
But isn't that the perfect metaphor for life? Messy yet beautiful at the same time.
I would just say it's messy.
I don't know.
I don't know. Things are turning around. I had a wonderful date with a very nice guy that I actually like, so we'll see what happens.
Things are looking up for the dolls.
All right. Well, without further ado, are we ready to get into the story?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're going to start with our paranormal pairing. Today we have a 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon from Decoy.
I love the Decoy Winery. I've had them before. They have some good things.
They do. It is a California Cabernet. Established more than 30 years ago by legendary vintners Dan and Margaret Duckhorn. Our roots run deep at Decoy. From vine to bottle, we craft our wines to the highest standards, only using grapes from exceptional vineyards, including from our own estate properties. We hope that you enjoy sharing this wine with your friends and family as much as we do with ours.
Period. Let's get into this cork pop.
Yeah, let's see if it's a good pop. It is a pretty decent pop.
Yeah, that was a nice pop. Good for them. They put that cork... if I could talk. They put that cork on nicely there, gave that good old pop.
Well, I also, got in there deep, and I'm going to have to fix your corkscrew later.
Yeah, it's fine. What can you do?
Ooh, that's a delightfully different smell.
It smells interesting.
I probably shouldn't have poured that much because I have not yet eaten today. All I've had is a cup of coffee.
I haven't eaten today either, so we'll just see where life takes us.
Drunk off our ass at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Period. How it should be. How it should be.
All right, and cheers. I like that. It's a very medium. It's not very dry. It's not very sweet. That's a wine I can get behind.
That is a good wine. I like that. Decoy Winery, you did a good job on that wine. That is a nice... if, let's say, you make a nice dinner for someone you're dating, you bring that wine to that dinner.
So I love wine pairing with food. And one thing that I love, when I make more roast than a stew, because I don't like stew.
Right.
But when I make a roast, I like throwing a little red wine in there. Or even chicken, I'll cook with white wine.
Yeah.
But then I like to have that wine with my meal to tie it in. This would be excellent to cook some beef in.
Oh.
This would be great with a steak.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I could even see this as a nice pairing with a pasta, maybe?
Yes, it's
a tomato.
Yes. I wouldn't say a bolognese, but a creamy tomato.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all need to go out and y'all need to try this wine. And this is not sponsored either.
Or
you're getting our true opinions on this.
Tomato soup and grilled cheese.
Ooh.
This would be great with tomato soup and grilled cheese.
With an adult twist, have some wine with your tomato soup.
Yeah, get some really... Okay, so I love grilled cheese, but I love a gourmet grilled cheese where you get some good bread. I like doing 2 or 3 types of cheeses, like a mozzarella or provolone with a cheddar.
Yeah.
And using the fancy bread, like a focaccia or a brioche. And I like to use... make it almost garlic bread, to add a little extra, and bacon.
Ooh, bacon.
Bacon grilled cheeses are the best.
I've never had that, but I need to try that now. That sounds good.
Next time I cook for you, bacon grilled cheese.
Ooh, I'm there. I'm ready.
All right. So, are you ready, Paul? Let me tell you a story.
I'm ready for it.
In Connecticut, there is an object so innocent looking, but possessed by infinite evil. It is nearly the size of a small child, has bright red hair, a charming half smile, and is locked in a specially locked case. The seemingly fun child's toy is actually possessed by a demon, which has killed at least one person and attacked others, and has been known to attack anyone who dares to mock it. Despite being trapped, It has achieved new heights of fame as a cultural icon from a horror franchise. And like all greats, Cher, Madonna, and Prince, she goes by one name only. Today we will discuss Annabelle.
I knew it as soon as you started and started talking about the doll's hair and everything.
I had to. When I was thinking about, like, the fact that she's just Annabelle, I was like, I have to do something about, like, the one name.
That was iconic.
It was, and I nearly lost it. Did you see the smirk on my face because I was fighting for my life not to bust out laughing?
Yes, that was iconic, and
I think that's the teaser for this one.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Cher, Madonna, Prince, Annabelle.
Yes.
That's the meme.
I'm here for that. But I love the Annabelle doll, and I love, like, the Conjuring movies and stuff, because Annabelle is part of the Conjuring movies.
She's a big part of that, and that's a big part of later.
The first Conjuring movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I know she's not in that one, but...
So I don't normally like modern scary movies. I like old scary movies where it's more suspenseful than jump scary. Mm-hmm. We've had this conversation before.
Right.
But one of the few modern horror films that I have watched are some of the Conjuring movies.
Okay. See, we're on the same page then.
Because I have a paranormal podcast, and the Warrens are a wealth of stories.
They very much are. They're one story after another, girl. They've done a lot of things in their lifetime. Are they still alive, do you know?
No. So Ed died in 2006, and Lorraine just died in 2019.
Okay, so recently.
Fairly recently, yeah. Which is, like, hit me hard because, like, you and I grew up with the ghost shows where Lorraine was on every single ghost show. Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures, like... I loved Lorraine Warren.
Same. She was an icon. Like, I know there's some, like, controversy around them and everything, but...
Eventually we're gonna do just an episode on the Warrens. Like, we're gonna do deep dives on their famous cases, obviously, but eventually we will do an episode just on the couple of them and their story and the controversy therein.
Right. I'm excited to hear about this one and how, like, it aligns with the Conjuring movie storyline.
Okay, great. Well, let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
So the story starts in 1970, which, believe it or not, was 50 years ago.
Oh, gosh.
I know, you and I, like, growing up in the early aughts.
Right.
It's like, that was 30 years ago. Nope.
It's 50 now.
It's 50.
We're getting old.
Yeah, like...
And we were, like, born in the 90s.
I know, I always tell, like, my cousin, who's going to turn 20 when I turn 27 this year. We have the same birthday. I always tell her, like, 9/11 was like less than 10 years ago. And she goes, no, it was like 22 years ago. And I go, what the hell?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, girl. Time's a flying.
I remember 9/11.
Right. Like, time is flying by. It's crazy.
And since we're talking about 9/11, Paul, you can say it. I give you permission.
Never forget?
No. The thing you always say about 9/11. Oh, the thing that I have begged you not to say on the podcast, I'm giving you permission.
See, I do this thing when we're out and about and there's an awkward silence in our group of friends or whatever group of people we're with, and there's an awkward silence. I'll go, so, how does everyone feel about 9/11?
And it only makes things more awkward.
I think it's funny.
It's hilarious because it makes things more awkward, and everyone goes from awkward to uncomfortable. Which somehow fixes it.
Right.
Because they realize they can't sit in silence, they have to say something.
Right.
So, the story starts in 1970 with a girl named Donna. She is a young nursing student, and she's given a Raggedy Ann doll by her mother. For those of you who have seen the Conjuring universe, I'm sure you're used to that very creepy porcelain doll with the disfigured face and the menacing green eyes and that evil expression and the braided hair. The real Annabelle doesn't look like that. The real Annabelle is a nearly child-sized Raggedy Ann doll.
Right. I knew that.
She's got the bright red yarn hair. She's got the big triangular nose. She's got a half smile. She wears the little blue dress with the frilly apron. She's got the striped socks.
Which could be a little more creepy, honestly.
I don't know. I never found Raggedy Ann creepy.
I imagine in the right context, low lighting and things.
So one of the things that got pointed out to me during the research was, so in the Conjuring movies, they made Annabelle look creepy. Where I think it was Ed Lorraine's son-in-law, Tony Spera, who is Ed's protege as a demonologist, said Annabelle isn't creepy to look at. It's what she does that makes her scary. Which doesn't always translate into movies.
That's very true. That's very, very true. So they had to like spook her up a bit.
Yeah. And you'll see anyone who's seen the Annabelle movies in the Conjuring universe, this is going to sound a lot less exciting. I think it's creepy.
I'm ready.
Because I'm terrified of dolls.
I don't know if I'm terrified of dolls.
Barbie dolls, I can do. Other dolls, no. American Girl dolls, creepy AF. No. My cousin collected them. Nope, creepy AF. So Donna absolutely loved the doll. She thought it was like this great gift, and she took it home to the apartment she shared with a fellow nursing student named Angie. And the doll took up residence on their living room sofa. And it was just kind of decor.
Right. I think it's interesting she got a doll as a present as a college student.
I don't know, because like when I was in college, when I was in college, me and my friends would go to Build-A-Bear and we would get bears. And it was just like a way, it's fun and it's a way to harken back to your childhood.
Okay, I could see that. Okay, we'll let it slide.
And also, I feel like, well, think about it, like late teens, early 20s, you're on that cusp of womanhood, but still kind of within girlhood.
Okay.
And so, and especially in the 70s, everything's still a little fluffy and pink and like girlish.
Okay, I could see what you're saying. All right, I see you. We'll let it slide.
And like I said, it wasn't a normal Raggedy Ann doll. This is a big Raggedy Ann doll.
Oh, so it's a little campy.
Yeah, and like they used it as decor. It's not like she was sleeping with the Raggedy Ann doll.
Oh, could you imagine if she was?
I mean,
Jesus.
Don't sleep with this doll.
Gets a point when like a doll's a little too large and it gets a little too weird to sleep with.
Okay, so this is a picture of Lorraine holding the doll.
Oh, I've seen that picture. Okay.
And as you can see, it is about the size of a 2 or 3 year old. It's a big doll.
Yeah. As usual, we'll have that picture on our Instagram.
So it's a little kitschy. It's just cute. And they loved it. It took up residence on the sofa. Everything was fine until some strange things started to happen. The first thing that they noticed is they would leave the house and the doll would be sitting like a normal doll does, sitting, arms at her side, legs apart. And they would go off to work, off to class, and they would come home and Annabelle would have her legs crossed.
Ooh, she's a proper girl.
I mean, my first thought if I saw that was somebody was in my house.
That's true. That's what I would think of first, is someone broke in and is like messing with me.
I immediately think murder.
Right.
Anytime something goes weird, I immediately think murder. And then my next thought is demon.
Right, exactly. I feel like that's a normal train of thought. That's where I would go to as well.
The next thing that would happen is they would leave for work in the morning and the doll would be on the sofa. And they would come home and the doll would be on Donna's bed behind a closed and locked door.
That's wild. How would they get in if the door was closed and locked?
We'll get into that.
All right.
At one point, Angie's boyfriend or fiance, I heard from different sources, we're going to go with boyfriend, Lou, was home alone when he heard rustling sound in Donna's room. And he actually thought it was a burglar, and he swung the door open, and he found the doll laying face down in a position as if it had been suddenly dropped. Or think Toy Story, Andy's coming, and they fall.
Oh, that's weird.
That's immediately what I thought when I read that. Like it was just like laying face down on the ground, I thought Andy's coming, like from Toy Story.
Right. That's a good analogy.
And then notes reading "help me" written in red crayon on parchment paper were found around the apartment. This was really scary because none of the girls owned parchment paper or crayons.
Okay, that's wild. But also, could you imagine Homegirl just on Etsy? Annabelle's on Etsy buying tons of parchment paper and stuff.
This is 1970. They didn't have Etsy. Like, she was going to that stationery store. She was using her Hallmark Gold Crown rewards. I wonder if Hallmark takes Demdike rewards.
You know what? She probably does have a Demdike rewards card that she used to get her parchment paper, get that little discount.
And then the thing that really sent the girls over the edge was they were having breakfast one morning, and they're in their little breakfast nook, and they had the doll sitting on one of the chairs, and they both watched as the doll's arms lifted by themselves and placed themselves on the table as if she was joining them for breakfast.
Okay, that's a no for me. At that point, we'd be done. That doll would be out.
People, if you have children or if you have toys in your house and they move on their own, take that shit to the Goodwill.
Right, it's time to get that shit out of there and move on with your life, okay?
Leave it in the park.
Right.
Witchy listeners, please, if you have a haunted object, what is a good, respectful way to get rid of it without it attaching? Please email us at cryptsandcorks@gmail.com.
Right, we need to know.
So Donna and Angie were both freaked out, as I would be.
Right.
So they called on a medium, and the medium was so into this, and she's like, I'm coming, we're having a seance.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes into the house, and she begins the seance, and she says that she's getting the spirit of a young girl about 6 or 7 years old. She was killed in a car accident on the property that the apartment building was built on, and her name was Annabelle Higgins.
Okay.
And the reason why Annabelle was manifesting so much around the two girls was she felt a connection with the girls, and she just wanted to be loved and cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna and Angie felt bad for Annabelle. This was a girl who really wasn't that much younger than themselves. They were late teens, early 20s. So there's only like 10, 15 years max between them.
Right.
And that's like max.
Right.
So if you weren't in nursing school and working at this age, you were married and having children.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's a little maternal instinct there. And so they invited the spirit of Annabelle to permanently take up residence in the doll.
Mistake number 1, girl.
Never give permission to spirits.
No, do not invite, do not give permission, don't call, don't text, don't tweet.
My childhood home had a ghost in it.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I was home alone, my mother and my brother were out, and my bedroom, so it was a 1-floor house.
Yeah.
And so the living room was in the front, and then there was the dining room and the kitchen, and then there was a hallway, and there were 3 bedrooms, and mine was the 3rd bedroom.
Right.
And also in the hallway at the opposite side of the room, between the kitchen and the living room, there was a staircase to go down to the basement. There was a large family room, and on the other side of the staircase, there was a mud room, and there was a door there that led into the garage, which was underneath my mother's room and my brother's room, and mine was over the mud room.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way the ventings were, if somebody came in from the garage to the mudroom, there was a screen door and it would scrape on the concrete floor, and so I'd hear it. And obviously no one's home because I'd hear the garage door open.
Right.
But I heard the door swing open and shut, and I yelled, listen, if you're gonna be here, you're not gonna bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Notice, that was not an invitation to stay.
Yes, you have to clarify.
That was saying, if you're going to stay, don't bother me.
Exactly.
I did not say, please stay, just don't bother me. Now, do not invite.
Exactly.
Because if that shit's a demon, that's all it needs.
Exactly. And I feel like that's the mistake these girls made.
It is as it will come up, Lorraine and Ed would agree with me, it is a thin line between infestation and obsession, and between obsession and possession.
Preach.
We're going to have to do an episode just on demonic possession, because it's really in depth.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that.
So the women were like, okay, it's cool. We know who this is. She's cool. Everything should be fine now. But the strange occurrences continued.
Right.
And things really escalated into one night, Lou was sleeping on the sofa with Annabelle at his feet. He woke screaming and began to tell Donna and Angie that in his dream, Annabelle began to climb up his legs and attempt to strangle him to death. And he's livid at this point because from the get-go, he did not like this doll.
Right.
And so he picks up Annabelle and he shouts, "You're nothing but a stupid Raggedy Ann doll. It can't hurt anybody," and threw her across the room. At this moment, he is struck down in agonizing pain. And when they took his shirt off, he had 7 scratches, 4 across his chest and 3 across his abdomen that were like claw marks.
That's crazy. That's how, when you know something's going on and something's going down and wrong.
So Donna and Angie are done. They called on Father Hegan, who is an Episcopal priest. And they said, you need to help us get rid of this ghost. Like, it attacked one of our boyfriends. We don't want a part of this. Mm-hmm. Father Hegan said, I really don't have much experience of this. Let me call my superior, Father Cook, who called on famed demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know they had like a connection to the church like that.
Yeah. So Ed and Lorraine were Catholics. They were very staunch Catholics. Mm-hmm. But from researching different things, I'm seeing that the Episcopal Church was far more willing to participate in their exorcisms than the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. I don't know yet if we're going to do exorcisms with possession, or maybe we'll do like a 2-parter where one's on possession, one's on exorcism. Mm-hmm. But the Catholic Church is hugely hesitant to hold exorcisms in the modern day.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the only modern take that they do have, is that there are so many different illnesses, both mental and physical, that could manifest as traditional possession.
Which is true,
Oh, it's very true. Mm-hmm. That they're not willing to do it. And the only reason they will do it is you have to go under strenuous testing, both by medical doctors and psychological doctors.
Right.
So, the Episcopal Church call in the Warrens. The Warrens investigate, and Ed was a demonologist. His focus was in identifying demonic possession and ridding it. Lorraine was a self-proclaimed medium. And this is a quote from their case file after their investigation of Annabelle, and this was their conclusion. Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll. It was looking to possess a human host.
Ooh, it was using the doll as a decoy.
Which is why we got Decoy Wine!
Ow! Period.
That's why I didn't want to say why I chose this one from the get-go.
The doll was a decoy for
the
demon.
So not to get too much into it, but because we'll cover it in this future possession story, there are some churches say there are 3 types of possession. The Catholic Church, which I grew up in and which I have the most familiar of their classification, it's 3 steps. Mm-hmm. The first is infestation, in which the demon infests your home and manipulates the environment around you. Next is obsession, trying to get you to focus on it. Mm-hmm. And the last is full-blown possession, where it takes possession over your body. So at this point, it started with infestation. Yeah. The demon infested the doll. Mm-hmm. We're at obsession, where it's trying to get the girls to focus on it. Right. Because the whole point is, with obsession, is to break you down to the point where you're willing to be possessed. Right. Because a demon cannot possess anyone who's not willing to be possessed.
Right.
But if you get weak enough.
Right. And imagine that at that point in their lives, they're going through so much change.
Oh my God. In college, I was talking with this guy today about just sharing stories about college, and I said the greatest lesson I learned in college was toxic people are not worth the time.
Right.
And I said, because like I tried so hard with toxic people who were no good for me. And I'm not saying I was good for them either, but I tried so hard to maintain the status quo with them. I actually had physical health problems.
I can imagine. Like, college is just a tough time in general, and then having to deal with a demon on top of it, girl. Like a literal demon.
No ma'am, no ham, no Pam, no peas and carrots.
Right, they were easy targets. Not to be like that person, but like at that point in their lives and going through college and all the pivotal things, and like being out on their own for the first time. Easy targets.
Obviously, the Warrens saw potential possession, and they ordered Father Cook to perform an exorcism on the apartment. Then, not taking any chances, they said to Don and Angie, "We're taking Annabelle with us, so the spirit can no longer harm, attack, or focus on you." So, they buckle Annabelle into the backseat of their car, and Ed was super concerned that Annabelle would try to attack them or do something to harm them on the drive home, and made a conscious decision not to take the busy freeway, but to take quiet back roads. It's really good that they did that, because on the way home, they experienced engine failure, power steering failure, brake failure. Each time something failed, it nearly caused an accident.
That's crazy. Girl, they should have just walked that doll back to their place. Like, mailed it first class or something.
Donna and Angie were in Connecticut, but they were in a different part of Connecticut than the Warrens. It wasn't far enough that it was a long trip. It was just far enough that they probably couldn't have walked it. And also, like, Ed and Lorraine were demonologists. They're trying to minimize the impact. So why would you put in the postal system?
That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, it could, like, somehow get lost or something like that.
I did hear a story about Peggy the doll where I think she was invited, her caretaker was invited to bring her to Las Vegas to meet Zach Baggins. I believe that was the instance.
Yeah.
And her caretaker was extremely hesitant to bring her on the plane because she was like, I don't want to put her in the cargo hold. Because she might get so upset that she actually crashes the plane with me on it.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to bring her on the plane and look like a crazy person. And so she decided to ship her first class overnight mail. And luckily, Peggy did not do anything.
Well, that's good. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with a possessed doll on a plane. Because, like, I'm a little iffy about flying in general. And that would just make me even more nervous. Like,
oh, I can't wait to go on tour with you.
Oh my gosh. I'd be spooked the whole time.
If we ever do a P.O. box, please don't send us haunted dolls. We will send them right back.
Oh, yes.
I will send that shit back.
Uno reverse that bitch.
Can we just get a full deck of Uno reverse cards? I bet we can find it on Etsy. And every time somebody sends us a haunted doll, I'm going to send it back with the Uno reverse tape to it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what we're going to do.
So finally, Ed had enough of the car problems. And he took out a bottle of holy water, reached around the back seat like he was going to berate a naughty child, and doused Annabelle in holy water. And then all the car trouble went away. Once they got home, they placed the doll in Ed's study. The Warrens were notable for collecting haunted objects along their cases and investigations. Unlike Zach Baggins, who just buys them.
Right.
No T-shirt shade, Zach, I love you, please don't sue me.
We love you, Zach.
So they thought, okay, this is fine. Well, it was not fine, because Annabelle would levitate.
Oh, no.
And Ed would like close and lock the door. They had a young daughter who was named Judy. Once again, Annabelle would make it through the locked door. And so Ed and Lorraine had enough. So they had property, and they had an outer building on the property, like a shed. So they took Annabelle out to the shed, locked the shed, went back into the locked house, and found Annabelle waiting for them.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Girl, Annabelle be breaking in, okay?
Yes. And one of the articles I read, what was it? It was transportation, which was being able to move from place to place. Levitation, being able to move on her own, and then manifestation, the notes. Like, those were three big signs of possession.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, she's levitating and she is manifesting. And she is not manifesting the right way.
Girl, she's big possessed.
So they had enough and they locked her up. They had a specially built wooden case, wood and glass case.
Mm-hmm.
On it is inscribed the Lord's Prayer and St. Michael the Archangel prayer. These are two of the most powerful prayers in the Catholic belief.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord's Prayer is the only prayer set down by Jesus Christ himself.
Mm-hmm.
And St. Michael's prayer is the invocation to St. Michael, who is the archangel who defeated the devil in battle.
Okay.
Also on the front of it is a devil tarot card, which I think is the spiritual version of an Uno reverse.
I didn't know that.
I'm assuming. I know I read somewhere why it's significant. As I was doing research for this, I did not stumble upon that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the funny thing about being a podcaster is for like a week at a time, you become like the world's leading expert on something.
Right.
And it's just really hard to like...
You have all this information.
And like you like to have work and you're like reading, and especially Annabelle, because you type in Annabelle the doll and so many things come up about like the movie or the Conjuring universe, and having to sift through the fictional story and the real story. It's just like, and normally I would listen to podcasts where somebody else has already sifted through that information, and I can sift through their information to find what I need.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you work full time,
it's hard.
It's hard. And eventually we will form a Patreon, and please donate to the Patreon so we can be full-time podcasters and I can become the world's leading expert on Annabelle.
Yes. But until then,
I don't know what the Devil Tarot card was for. And for the rest of his life, Ed would periodically say a special binding prayer over the case.
Wait, how often would he do that?
Periodically.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just like recharging a battery.
It's more like changing the batteries in your smoke detector. Like sometimes, like you're supposed to do it every 6 months, but who cares if you did it 3 years from the last time you did it? You did it.
I think he's a little more motivated than the smoke detector.
I think it was like Lorraine. Ed, it's time to change the batteries to the smoke detector, clean out the gutters, and say the prayer over Annabelle.
Right. You better do the Annabelle thing first, though, girl, because you don't want that getting out.
I mean, when you live, and eventually the Warrens turn their home into an occult museum, which is since closed, which I think is a travesty, and I'm very disappointed. I mean, do you just get used to it?
Probably. I mean, when you're around that haunted stuff all the time, I imagine you just, like, get used to it.
Like, just, God fucking damn it, Annabelle, put the coffee creamer back where you found it.
Very that.
Annabelle was thus trapped for good, without the ability to harm anyone, mostly. There are stories of the spirit making it out to wreak havoc on a few people who doubted or disrespected her. The first case was that of a young priest who was visiting the Warrens. I'm assuming this was before they had the specially built case, because it is said that he actually picked up the doll. And he laughed that a child's doll could be considered evil or even infested with evil. On the way home, he was in a near-fatal car crash, which totaled his brand new car.
I mean, you don't doubt Annabelle, girl. You gotta come.
From the hospital, he reported to Ed and Lorraine that just before the accident, he saw Annabelle in his rearview mirror.
Now that's crazy. That's wild.
The other big story is that of a young man who is visiting the museum, who... Oh, I forgot the most important part of the Annabelle case. Like the actual case she is in. There's also a sign on it. It's a big sign, and it says in big letters, "Warning, positively do not touch." And that goes for the case.
Right.
Because it's locked. You're not getting to touch Annabelle, but you touch that case, whew. Because this man tapped on that glass and laughed and called her a silly toy.
Oh, big mistake, I imagine.
Well, he went home with his girlfriend and they were riding on his motorcycle and they were laughing about this silly toy. As they were laughing, he lost control of the motorcycle and drove head first into a tree, killing himself instantly and nearly killing his girlfriend. Which is how we know what they were laughing about right before the crash.
That's so scary. Oh my gosh. That's kind of worse than Robert the Doll, like, because Robert the Doll is said to curse you, but Annabelle's actually, like, killing people.
Yeah, as we record this, Robert the Doll goes out tonight, and I show Nanny the teaser of it, and she said, "Ooh, ugly," and I demanded
No!
She apologized. She said, "To who?" And I said, "To Robert," and she said, "No," and I literally went, "Nanny, he literally curses people who don't respect him." And she went, "If I get cursed, I get cursed." And I literally went running into my grandfather and I said, "Pap, stay away from Nanny for the next couple days. She insulted a haunted doll and she won't apologize." And I leaned out the door. I said, "Right, Nanny?" She said, "What?" I said, "Are you going to apologize to Robert?" "No."
Girl, well, thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, Nanny.
Girl.
Well, despite Annabelle's captivity, she is experiencing widespread popularity, due mostly to the fact that she's featured as a prime character in the Conjuring universe. This series of movies revolves entirely around the Warren cases, and Annabelle seems to pop up in a few of them. The first Conjuring. Oh my god, I had them all listed on my head. I don't know why I didn't write them down.
It's fine. If you're that interested, go
And then
Google
she
it.
has an entire sub-series within the series dedicated to her.
Yeah.
Annabelle, Annabelle Origins, and Annabelle Coming Home.
Yeah.
I saw Annabelle Coming Home.
I only saw the first one.
I saw it, so Cinemark, I hope you're not listening to this. A friend of mine, we had drinks, and then we decided to go to the movies. And we wanted to see Aladdin, but Aladdin had already started, so they wouldn't sell us a ticket. Mm-hmm. So we bought tickets to Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Mm-hmm. And once we got through, we went into Aladdin. Mm-hmm. But it was halfway over. Like the live action Aladdin.
Okay.
And so when Aladdin was done, we went into Annabelle Coming Home.
Wait, so you only bought one ticket? But
we bought one ticket and we did not see that movie, but saw two different movies.
That's honestly iconic.
Double feature. Don't actually do that. I was terrified we were going to get caught.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, that would be terrifying.
But I really don't think the movie theater workers care that much.
No, they don't. I mean, most movie theater workers are like children.
We paid for a ticket.
Right.
And it's not like we snuck into a full movie theater and sat on the floor.
Right. And they're not charging more for one movie than the other.
No.
Like, it's all the same. It's fine.
So, as I mentioned earlier, the films are vastly exaggerated accounts of her story and hauntings. Mm-hmm. It is also an exaggerated appearance. This is due both in part to the fact of the scary thing about Annabelle is not how she looks. It's the fact that such an innocent, normal-looking doll can do these things. And that it is imbibed with pure evil and an inhuman demonic spirit. Mm-hmm. But like I said, in a movie, that's just not good.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make for good movies.
Right.
I remember, I can't remember if it was a book or a movie about the movie industry, but somebody was like pitching an idea for a movie and it was going to be this great thinking story that left you moved and thoughtful at the end. And the producer says, "I don't want to think, I want sexy."
Oh my god. Isn't that real for like all movies?
That's for everything. And I was helping a friend plan an event once, and she was very focused on the food and what she was going to wear and the location and not about the smaller details. And I was talking with someone else and it was like, why focus on the big things? Once you get the big things out of the way, doesn't it make the smaller things easier? And I said, no, the big things are sexy. Mm-hmm. It's all about sex. I say a lot about things it's all about sex.
Right.
Because it's the fun things, the juicy things.
The wow factor.
Exactly. Mm. And so looking at Annabelle and seeing this scary doll, that's sexy. that gets butts and chairs.
Right, right.
A Raggedy Ann doll on the cover does not. And also, Raggedy Ann is owned by a parent company, and there was going to be trademark trouble if they used Raggedy Ann.
That makes sense, too.
Yeah, especially because Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy dolls are not sold as haunted paraphernalia.
Right, right. I'm pretty sure there was even, like, a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, I think at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was little, I really wanted a Raggedy Andy doll.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted one so bad, and my mother was creeped out by them, and she refused.
Oh my gosh.
Despite her newfound fame, she remains locked up in the Warrens' home.
Mm-hmm.
Until 2019, you could visit her at the Warrens Occult Museum in Connecticut. However, the museum did close in that year due to zoning issues following Lorraine's death. Mm-hmm. It is zoned as a private residence, not as a museum.
Makes sense, makes sense.
If you go on Google, it says it's permanently closed. I don't know if the Warrens' daughter Judy and her husband Tony, who inherited it, are making plans to reopen it in a different location or not, but they are now her caretakers.
Could you imagine inheriting, like, Annabelle and all that creepy stuff?
But, I mean,
like,
Judy grew up with it. Tony was Ed's protege. Like, it's not like that woman who inherited Robert the Doll when she bought Gene Otto's house. Mm-hmm. Like, Judy and Tony were prepared.
They knew it was coming. They were, yeah. Okay, I feel you.
And despite captivity, the real Annabelle can still strike real fear into the hearts of everyone.
Yeah, it's a spooky story.
Most notably, in August 2020, when it was reported she had escaped. Do you remember this?
I remember those memes now that you say that.
I remember vividly this one TikTok where it was a cartoon map with a cartoon car. Mm-hmm. And it had the Annabelle, like the movie Annabelle doll. Mm-hmm. And it was like this cartoon jerky movement of her going down the map. And then it had the movie Robert the Doll, which is also far creepier looking than the real Robert. Mm-hmm. And it was Annabelle going to get her to spring her boyfriend Robert.
Oh my gosh.
I wish I would have found it beforehand because I remember cackling. Mm-hmm. However, despite the fact that these rumors quickly spread on social media, they were quickly debunked, and Tony issued a video statement showing Annabelle was safely still under lock and key in her blessed case, where she remains to this day.
Oh my gosh. See, now that you say that, I remember this specific meme from 2020 where, like, I didn't have Annabelle escaping on my 2020 bingo card.
I remember one of those, like, recaps. And it was like Australian bushfires, plague, world shutdown, Annabelle escaping.
Right. There was already so much going on that year. Gosh, I hope, though, that they reopen the museum because it would be so cool to see Annabelle.
I would love to. And, even the controversy around the Warrens, I am very interested, and I do kind of admire them.
Right. And you know what? They have to have some of that Conjuring money they can use to open a museum because they're going to make bank if they open that museum.
Yeah, and Ed wrote books. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, one of the controversial things is saying that on every media appearance they did, they made money. Mm-hmm. Like, they did not appear for free.
Right. Which I don't blame them. Like, if that's your job, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And like,
I mean, mediums charge, like tarot readers charge, like people charge for things if that's what they do,
Yes. And to speak of that, I heard something where somebody was like, oh, if somebody's a psychic, claims to be a psychic or a medium or a spiritual tarot reader, and they charge you money for it, don't believe them. I'm going to say right now, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
I will say that there are a lot of fakes and phonies out there, but I have met a number of psychics and tarot readers and mediums who have charged, but who truly did tap into something.
Oh, yeah.
And I took a mediumship and psychic development class once. Mm-hmm. And the woman who led it, who was a psychic medium, said, there is nothing wrong with charging money for your gifts if you're providing a service.
Exactly.
And the thing that is different between a real medium and a psychic is a real medium and psychic, if they feel moved to give you a message, they'll tell it to you. A fake will say, I will not get that message until you give me $100.
Exactly. I've definitely seen that before on different psychic shows and stuff where they're being filmed and they're just like walking through the grocery store and something, be like, okay, I'm getting a message from Spirit. I have to tell this person something.
And that's why they do it. It's to help people. But also they're providing a service.
Right. Exactly.
And because of that, if they are taking time out of their schedule to do that, then they are owed something. And whenever I've done I've done tarot readings and I've charged for them, and I never charged an astronomical amount because I'm very amateurist. And then it got to the point where I was just like, you know what? I'm such an amateur that I started charging. I called it a goodwill fee.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say, how much do I owe you? And I'd say, if you feel moved, give me what you feel I owe, what you feel I earned.
Mm-hmm.
And one lady gave me $50 for a 10-minute reading.
Yeah.
Because I was doing it in a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, you said stuff that I really need to hear, please. And I said, this is too much. I can't. And she said, I insist.
Oh, that's so nice.
And some people just gave me like $2.
Right. And that's fine too. I mean, $2 is $2, you know? I mean, there's been times I've been in drag and made $2.
Exactly.
Like.
So, Paul, after all of this, what's your take on Annabelle?
Annabelle, what I'm interested in is learning, like, how the doll got possessed before it got to her. Like, or was it there before the doll? Or, like, what happened?
I'm glad you said that because I was going to say, my take on it is I think the spirit was around the property. And I was talking about this with my one cousin because she was, like, smelling. She said, I'm getting a lot of weird smells, a lot of, like, cat urine and ammonia.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's not good. That's, like, a sign of a demon.
Right.
And she said, it passed. Like, after 24 hours, it passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what was your mood like? And she said, I was in a really bad place. And I said, my personal belief is that demons just roam. But demons are attracted to negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for that 24 hours, the demon was like scoping out to see. And eventually it realized that you weren't a good enough target. You weren't an easy target and it moved on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this roving demon found these two girls who were willing and able. And it found a vessel in which it could manipulate.
Yeah.
Manipulation, that was it. It wasn't transformation, it was manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulation, transformation, and
possession. Possession, yeah. No, I could very much see that for sure, and that it just used the doll as as we said, the decoy. And I wonder if Annabelle was like an actual real person, like a real little girl that died in a car accident.
Well, here's the thing from watching those ghost shows and from reading about these stories is that demons have no problem lying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Satan himself is called the Prince of Lies.
Mm-hmm.
And all the time you hear stories of demons pretending to be children. And we even talked about this in Lep Castle, where Charlotte, the little girl with the broken leg,
mm-hmm.
the one theory was, is it actually the ghost of a little girl, or is it something malevolent pretending to be a little girl?
Yeah.
Because it lulls you.
Yeah.
And that's like by far the thing that demons do the most is pretend to be the spirit of children.
Yeah. I've definitely heard a lot of that. They definitely like to pretend to be children and innocent, and then you let your guard down, and then bam!
Exactly.
You're done.
Well, Paul, I have one last question for you. Smash or pass, Ed Warren?
Ed Warren?
Ed
Ooh,
Warren.
Girl. I'd do it if I didn't get possessed afterwards. Why not? You know, he's famous.
And I will say real Ed Warren, not Patrick Wilson in the Conjuring universe.
No, I'd do it if I didn't get possessed afterwards. Heck, the wife could join too. Why not?
You heard it here, folks. Paul's going to do a threesome with the ghost of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Right, I'm ready. I'm here for it. Why not? That wasn't an invitation. We're protecting ourselves. That's not an invitation.
1, 2, 3, not home with me.
Yep, 1, 2, 3, not home with me. Period.
Thank you, 2 Girls, 1 Ghost, for that little grounding.
Yes,
Grounding.
for that grounding. So thank you, 2 Girls, 1 Ghost, for that little grounding.
We love Corinne and Sabrina.
And before we go, we should address that it's still the holiday season.
It is. This was the last part of our holiday series on haunted gifts.
Yeah.
Looking back, Robert the doll was a doll given to a little boy that was haunted. The Dybbuk box was, at least according to the story, a gift given by the original poster to his mother and haunted. And now we have Annabelle given by Donna's mother to her that was haunted. Next week, our episode comes out on Christmas Eve. We will be doing another Christmas episode. It will not be a haunted gift. It will be directly related to Christmas for the holiday. And we will have a special guest.
Yes.
Our first guest.
Yes. So definitely tune in next week for our first guest.
And our first Christmas together.
Period. Yes, our first Crypts and Corks Christmas.
Because we're recording that right after this, I will tell you, Paul, one of the things I am getting you for Christmas. I'm going to go to the mall and I'm going to get one of those personalized ornaments. And it's going to be our first Christmas. And I'm going to make them right on it, Crypts and Corks.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going to get 2, one for you and one for me because we don't live together.
That's so cute. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, since it's a little too early for us to do gifts when we record this, I figured I could tell you one of the things I was getting you for Christmas.
Period. I'm not going to tell you anything
Please
I'm getting you.
All right, like all of our socials, Instagram at Crypts and Corks Pod, TikTok at Crypts and Corks. We're on Facebook as Crypts and Corks. If you have story suggestions or personal stories, because we would love to do listener stories eventually, please email us at cryptsandcorks@gmail.com. Paul, where can they find you?
You can find me on my Instagram at Paul Ember, all one word.
Or you can find me on Instagram at DJ Chessie Powers. And I think that covers it.
That'll do me.
Until next week, all, keep your crypts tight.
And your corks loose.
Bye.